Recently on a live stream, I decided to ask people to pick a movie they wanted to see reviewed. We added them to a wheel, spun it, and now today I have 5 movies picked from fans to talk about. Which ones are great, which ones are garbage? Let's find out. Also, check out my Patreon I just set up since they had extra votes for the wheel. Hoo boy, did I dodge a disaster with our first pick today. First is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. A millimeter of space is why I'm talking about this movie and not Fred the movie.
She's gone! Somebody call 911!
You're gonna be alright. You're gonna be alright.
Please. Kill me.
Starting off, I actually read the graphic novels after the film, so I basically had no idea what I was in for. Also, I didn't know a lot of these references. I played some video games as a kid, but I wasn't a hardcore gamer by any means, which is why I'd recommend Scott Pilgrim even for non-nerdy types who just want to see a funny, exciting, vividly colorful adventure with some of Edgar Wright's most inspired directing. The constant effects on top of the live action are used by some movies now to dangle keys when jokes are lazy, but here it's appropriately used, and it all gives the film so much life. I love the cast. Kieran Culkin and the lines he's given are hilarious.
Evening. My name is Crash. These are the boys.
Is that girl a boy too?
Yes. I am so sad. I am so very, very sad. Goes a little something like this. Thank you.
Not a race, guys.
Brandon Routh captures stupidity and pretentiousness perfectly. Chris Evans is awesome. Michael Cera is both well cast and miscast. His line delivery totally works, and I can't say there's a moment he doesn't nail, but I didn't think the characters Ramona and Scott had much chemistry. Part of it is that I couldn't tell how much time was passing, but it felt like a few weeks. The relationship feels rushed, like it never really settled into a groove. And so other than Ramona being pretty, fashionable, and kind of a dick, I didn't understand why Scott was fighting so hard for her. And Michael Cera plays a role in such a comically wimpy, ineffectual way that I'm not really sure why she is into him. Still, it wasn't like this was actively bothering me or anything because the acting is strong across the board, and the dialogue has a real zip to it. There are obvious things to point out, like the original songs by Beck, which straight up rock. But so many small details enhance this film too. Like how one character kicks the phone booth door open with the injured leg, because he's just that tough. Or a single glance from an ex that shows you years of heartbreak in a couple seconds. Even if you don't look up the behind-the-scenes material, it's obvious that Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was created with love, imagination, and hard work. I both love the pacing, but also think the script doesn't let the relationship breathe, and I think a few key moments could have been explained better. But what can I say? It's still a blast. Even when the art style isn't flashing its feathers, the one-liners and character interactions are so funny that you would need to try to be bored. And lastly, those opening credits are incredible. Maybe top 10 of all time. I'm serious. 8 out of 10.
Do you know that girl?
Scott! What? You only played one note for that entire song.
My hand slipped.
Is your girlfriend distracting you?
My girlfriend?
I'll be quieter.
Hey, it's the chance to see any movie you want in the world reviewed. It's not like you're gonna choose something like Tarot just to make me suffer.
Why are you looking at me like that?
I wanna do it. I'm gonna do it.
No!
In all seriousness, if a fan is recommending a movie to make me suffer, it's kind of flattery. Okay, look, it's PG-13, it's on Netflix, and it's 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone's expecting me to rip this to shreds. And yeah, that's what's gonna happen. This thing sucks, but I want to start with some positives. It's shot competently. Special effects are fine. The creature design isn't very creative, but may work for some people. I like the death scene involving a ladder, and another sequence featuring a stage magician. It was also pretty short. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The dialogue is horrible. The performances are slightly less horrible, but still bad. One guy looks about 10 years older than the others and seems to be trying and failing to do a Bruce Campbell impression the entire time. The guy from the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies is in this, and whew, It's amazing how someone can give the exact same performance in 2 different movies, but the dialogue in one makes you want to murder him.
We rented a literal mansion.
Yeah, but we're outside and mosquitoes are eating my ankles.
Does someone have a marshmallow I can shove in his mouth?
Please, my reflexes are too fast.
Nice reflexes.
Caught me off guard.
I think the worst line is, quote, "It's like Hogwarts up in this place." What? There's no originality. Every trope and cliche is here. The wind shushing the candles, the creaky door, the flickering lights, the decrepit old woman providing lore to her characters like she's a Dark Souls NPC, the cellar full of creepy objects. I mean, Cabin in the Woods spoofed this kind of movie over a decade ago, and you're still doing it? I was interested in how tarot works. I don't believe any of it, but I was engaged. I was hoping for better looking cards. Yeah, they're creepy, probably handmade and look aged, but I don't know, I was expecting more impressive artwork, I guess. My problem is that despite my passing interest in how tarot reading works, there's so much wrong here. There's really misplaced music. It's not scary. The jump scares are the same ones you've seen 100 times. It's got a terrible opening title card, and we hear a horror podcast at one point, and it's the fakest thing I've ever heard. If you want a PG-13 horror movie with a group of friends and a magic object, you're way better off watching Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This isn't the worst horror I've seen, like not by a long shot. They tried with some of the visual design, but the god-awful script and the lack of attention to detail made this impossible to recommend. 3 out of 10.
So, does that mean I'm gonna become rich and famous or date someone hot?
Dude, she's not a genie.
I know that, but like, will I?
Next is Before Sunrise. It's one of those trilogies I just didn't get around to seeing. I knew about it, on the radar, but it simply didn't happen. There isn't much direction to the plot, and this can really bother people. It worried me at first, like, okay, nothing's happening. But the script made it very clear that this was not going to be a normal narrative, that this would be a hangout film, a series of discussions, a My Dinner with Andre situation. And I love My Dinner with Andre. With a plot this loose, all depends on the acting and dialogue, and luckily we're in safe hands here. Ethan Hawke does a good job, and Julie Delpy is great. They have wonderful chemistry from the get-go, and thank God, because there are specific scenes that depend on that chemistry. Having actors stare at each other with music chugging away in the background is forced chemistry, a forced bond. But put 2 people in a listening booth and watch them look away from each other means so much more because both feel a powerful pull towards each other but don't want to spoil anything too early. It's honestly an adorable scene. It's a meet-cute turned philosophical odyssey, and as they roam the streets of Vienna, they cover everything from past relationships to religion and anthropology. Nothing seems like a lecture because while these 2 people get along and respect each other's views, they are still distinct people, and the film isn't trying to prove either one right or wrong. Ethan Hawke is more cynical and untethered, finding passion in the immediate, while Julie Delpy is more reserved, her idea of romance more long-term, even spiritual.
We were in the launch car, and he began to talk about him as a little boy seeing his great-grandmother's ghost. I think that's when I fell for him. Just the idea of this little boy with all those beautiful dreams. He trapped me.
I was begging the film not to dip into the typical, miscommunication fight, the web of lies, the 2 running off and then coming back in the finale, and I don't mind spoiling that no, that doesn't happen. It's pretty cordial from start to finish. That doesn't mean there isn't drama or sadness when both you and these 2 lovebirds wonder if this spur-of-the-moment 24 hours has any future. No, I wouldn't say the conversations blew my mind, but for a sweet romance, I think it works. This is to say, there were definitely moments that struck a chord with me, like Ethan Hawke discussing how split he is between total freedom and being a father. Before Sunrise is the kind of elongated date we've probably all wanted at some point, when you drop all pretenses and just talk with honesty and an open heart because you don't know if there will be a tomorrow. Based on this movie, I'm very excited to watch the rest of the trilogy. I'm torn between a 7 and an 8, and I think I'll leave it at 7 for now. a bit more of the profound and a bit less of the casual may have bumped it up, but honestly, on a rewatch, this could go up anyway. It's a really nice movie.
It's not just a fear of commitment or that I'm incapable of caring or loving, because I can. It's just that if I'm totally honest with myself, I think I'd rather die knowing that I was really good at something, or that I had excelled in some way, than that I'd just been in a nice, caring relationship.
Next is In My Skin from 2002. In My Skin centers on a woman who injures her leg at a party and from there has an insatiable desire to cut herself. I have complicated feelings on these kinds of movies, and they've made me reevaluate how I view cinema. I think it's key to figure out what a movie is going for, and then judge how it accomplishes that goal, rather than compare it to other movies of its genre and berate it for not doing that. But In My Skin made me wonder, is a movie good just because it accomplished its goal? What if the goal is kind of stupid, or gross, or pointless? This isn't to say In My Skin has no artistic value. A dinner scene suddenly becomes more stressful for our protagonist, and the film cranks the volume on all the footsteps and plates and silverware in the restaurant to match how little she can focus. That was a good moment. There is also the theme of ownership of self, as it becomes clear that this woman is both mutilating her body and, in a strange way, caring for it. It's her body to do with it what she wants. She rebels against those who control how she treats it, and fears losing any part of it. I'm not saying any of this is healthy, no, but it's an interesting theme explored in a visceral way. And yet, I can't say I enjoyed this, because I'm still watching a woman bite and slice herself in scene after scene, all in agonizing detail. This isn't a Serbian film territory, but it brings up the same question of, why am I watching this? They may be a masochist, but I'm not. As I mentioned, In My Skin clearly has more going on thematically than simple torture, but parts were torturous to watch. And on top of that, it's got flaws. I don't think it's shot particularly well. I'm having trouble understanding the point of the jealous friend. And worst off, the impetus for the plot, what gets this all going, is when our protagonist injures that leg. And it's fucking comical how avoidable that was. She might be the clumsiest person in film. More than the characters in Alien Covenant, more than anyone who runs away from Jason Voorhees, more than your standard romantic comedy lead.
I was just thinking about you.
This is the hardest one for me to rate today. I didn't like it, but recognize how effective the makeup and acting are in those gory sequences. Thematically, there's enough to chew on, but some of the dialogue falls flat. So 5 out of 10? And last up is LA Confidential. The plot does exactly what great detective films should do, which is be complex enough to raise the stakes, but don't be so complicated that it becomes a grocery list of twists. Looking at you, Predestination. LA Confidential is also very character-focused. My biggest problem with some mystery films out there is that many of the characters seem interchangeable. These characters, despite being well-groomed, well-dressed, well-educated white people, are diverse. The no-nonsense detective, the bull in a china shop, the lethargic cynic, and even they have reveals and changes under their sleeves too. I'll always say that a puzzle box kind of movie needs some kind of emotional core. If I get lost, I should want to get back in the right direction. I didn't give 2 shits about a single person in Tenet, but I was anxious during pretty much the entirety of LA Confidential. But you guys basically know all this. It's a celebrated film with an all-star cast. So I just want to add a couple things. First, Guy Pearce's acting. He is, to me, the best performer in the film. Super cool and completely embodies the time period and tone of the movie. There's a scene where he learns a secret and has to conceal it while speaking to someone, and I don't think the actor could have done it any better. And second is that the studio wanted to push Russell Crowe out of production and hire Sean Penn instead, to the point where they stopped paying for his hotel room.
There was a few times there where I was going down the back stairs, so the hotel manager wouldn't stop me in the foyer and ask me what was going on.
I think my only issue isn't really an issue, but more of a, this is fine, and that's the femme fatale played by Kim Basinger. I know it's a tropey movie and she's good in the role, but the real entertainment comes from the cops and robbers story. It seems like she's only there to get two guys to fight over her, which worked for challengers, and even that's a disservice to challengers, but here it's about as captivating as, well, any girl with a 3-syllable name at a club. Drama is just bound to happen. LA Confidential is tight as a snare drum. As a movie buff, it makes me happy, seeing something so professionally assembled and also be this entertaining. 8 out of 10, the perfect coffee and whiskey movie.
Would you be willing to shoot a hardened criminal in the back in order to offset the chance that some lawyer...
No.
Then, for the love of God, don't be a detective. Stick to assignments where you don't have to make those kind of choices.
Dudley, I know you mean well, but I don't need to do it the way you did. Or my father.
At least get rid of the glasses. I can't think of a single man in the Bureau who wears them.
And that's my video. Big shout out to my Patreon members Misty and Company and Alika Kelly, as well as you, beautiful viewer out there, for watching and supporting the channel. Should I do the next video differently? Any feedback is great, so comment below. And as always, thanks for watching.